So we've reached the end of a historical presidency, and we can no longer say our president is black. I know. But there's some stuff that I still want to talk about. Outside of talking about Trump or whatever, a lot of people are arguing about whether or not Barack Obama was a good president, and that's kind of normal to do after a presidency. But because of the obvious uniqueness of this particular president, there's really only one concern for America's first black president, and that is, what did he do for black people? Mr. Barack Obama served 2 terms, that's 8 years, okay? Emphasis on the 8 years as president of the United States, and for some reason, some odd reason, a lot of people thought that life was going to significantly change for black people in America. Okay. And I know that there were a lot of people who voted for Obama just because he was black, and I'm not necessarily knocking that or whatever, because I mean, that was kind of a percentage for why I voted for him, but you couldn't possibly think that that alone was gonna make a huge difference for black people in America, right? There were several reasons for why I voted for Obama back in 2012, and as you may recall from one of my previous videos, I'm not like big on voting, although that wasn't quite my mindset 4 years ago. A large percentage for why I voted for Obama was, yes, because he was black, but also because it was my first time voting and I wanted to experience voting. Also, it was a historical moment in history that I wanted to be a part of, but the main reason why I voted for Obama was because of the power of representation. Just voting for him because he was black really wasn't enough for me. I mean, I wasn't gonna vote for Ben Carson, like, the fuck? But the way Barack spoke and the way he held himself, his eloquence, his demeanor, seeing Michelle and seeing his children, like, that was such a powerful thing to look at. Like, that really was a phenomenal thing to experience. That alone can spark a whole generation of black children or black people in general to become more interested and more knowledgeable about politics and about the system that controls their everyday lives. Who knows how many little black children went from wanting to be like Lil Wayne to wanting to be like Barack Obama just from listening to him speak or seeing him on TV or just witnessing his presidency as a whole. So whether you thought he was a good president or not, you definitely can't deny his importance to black culture and American history. And I mean, come on now, we've definitely had worse presidents. We currently have a worse president already. Now with that being said, y'all really need to stop crying and screaming that Barack Obama didn't do anything for black people.
Barack Obama doesn't care about black people.
What did you really think he was gonna do? Like, what do you think he really has the power to do? If you thought Obama was gonna two-step into the White House and demand reparations, then you really don't understand politics. Like, our nation was built on decades and decades of racism and capitalism. So what makes you think he can undo generations of social and economic oppression in 8 years? 8 years! Like, I really don't get why you guys keep expecting those within the system, regardless of their color, to fight against racism and classism as if that's not what this system and this nation thrives off of. I'm not saying that there aren't people within the system who are fighting against these things, but I personally believe that these issues have reached a point where they can't be reformed. Like, this system has to be completely destroyed and rebuilt. The point that I'm making is, you can tell by listening to Obama's speeches that he was very adamant about using colorblind terminology, and it sucks, but I mean, it was kind of a necessity for the role that he was meant to play as the first black president, aka a symbol of hope for black and brown people, or a false symbol of hope, but a symbol of hope nonetheless. But promoting and living in a colorblind society, especially when racism still exists, only causes more issues. You're making it harder to fight racism by refusing to acknowledge that race is still an issue. And I know that Obama is a very intelligent man, but I wonder if he was aware of how much more damage he caused by speaking in that manner. And I know this to be true because we've all heard someone say, oh, racism doesn't exist anymore, we have a black president. Like, bitch, really? But do I think Obama cares about black people in the black community? Like, of course he does. Do I think he could have brought about some real significant change if he wasn't constantly surrounded by politicians who wanted to see him fail? Like, of course. I'm positive he spent the last 8 years biting his tongue, and you could definitely see the change from his first term to his second. He was much more relaxed. He often invited prominent black figures to the White House and to perform at the White House. He definitely brought black culture to the White House. Like, his chill factor then went straight to 0. But was he gonna go full Malcolm X on us? Like, no. I personally believe one of the main reasons why Obama kind of played down his pro-blackness, or whatever you want to call it, you know, avoided talking about the racial flaws in our system too in depth, is because one thing his blackness allowed him to do was he didn't have to fight that hard for the black vote or for black support the way other presidential candidates did. As long as he didn't do anything too outlandish and off the wall in the eyes of black America, like, he would always be loved. And another reason why I think Obama kind of downplayed his pro-blackness or whatever is because once you publicly acknowledge that there's a problem, especially as a person of power and influence, your core audience and your following is going to automatically see you as someone who has somewhat of a moral obligation to help fix that problem, or else you just become part of the problem. You're just a mouthpiece. And I think he just didn't want that additional pressure on top of being the first black president of the United States, or being the president in general, because the president is someone who takes the blame for all of the nation's problems as if Congress doesn't exist and all that other stuff. And I just don't think he wanted those added stresses. I mean, just thinking about structural and institutional racism is stressful on its own. And then on top of that, having to maintain a level of blackness where he's still accepted by the black community, because you know how quick we are to write off black people if they don't live up to our standard of blackness. I don't know why we're like this, but we are. But being black while also not being like too black where it's a threat to white people, like, he had to be Martin, he couldn't be Malcolm. I don't necessarily agree with it. It's not the stance or the role that I would play if I was in his position, but I mean, I understand it. But let's be real, the main thing that we love about Obama's presidency is it was just aesthetically pleasing. I'm not trying to knock his historical importance or his success or anything, but the main thing that we love about Obama was being able to say, my president is black. We loved being able to see a black family in the White House. We love seeing Michelle and their daughters. Like, they're no doubt the flyest first family we've ever seen. We love Michelle Obama. She's such a great role model for young black girls and black women and women in general. We love being able to say that Barack and Michelle are relationship goals, because we for damn sure can't say that about Hillary and Bill Clinton and all his side chicks. And although I don't agree with everything he's done while in office, I don't think he's failed as a president. I do, however, think he failed as a black man of power as far as speaking on and bringing attention and awareness to issues relating to the community that he belongs to and that he came from. But the bottom line is, if you think Barack Obama was a disappointment to the black community, then your expectations of him really were way too high. Obama running for president was nothing more than a black man joining and participating in a system already set out to oppress and destroy us. Why you thought this one man would be able to completely tear down the system and rebuild it in a way that would benefit all disenfranchised and marginalized people really is beyond me. In all realness, Obama's legacy is and will forever be nothing more than the first black president, because once you actually dissect his legacy, it's not at all going to reflect on the issues within the black community. He was just the first black president, aka the poster child for America, aka the greatest country in the world, free from racial discrimination and racism and all of that. But what I will judge Obama on is what he and Michelle do outside of the White House. Now that he's not in office and the pressure is a little bit lighter and he has a little bit more freedom, then I think that's something that is much more fair to judge him on. But at the end of the day, despite my views on politics and my disgust for the American political system, I can't deny that I loved seeing a black family in the White House. I loved seeing Barack in office. I loved seeing Michelle and Barack just do their little thug thizzle. And I love being able to say my president is black.
And with that, I just have two more words to say. Obama out.